Ryan Wells tightened the strap on his uniform as he stepped out onto the alien soil. The Talari capital was like nothing he'd imagined. A dizzying array of angular towers and shimmering walkways suspended over glowing rivers of plasma. This was the culmination of years of preparation. An opportunity to open the door to humanity's first alliance with another intelligent species. Ryan's heart pounded, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. Behind him, Lieutenant Oliver Hayes followed, his boots crunching on the iridescent surface of the landing platform. "I don't see any welcoming committee," Oliver said, scanning the horizon. His sharp blue eyes swept across the scene, missing nothing. He was a man who thrived on action, yet he walked a step behind Ryan, deferring to the older man's steady hand. "They're here somewhere," Ryan replied, his voice calm. "The Talari aren't known for their punctuality. We'll wait." Moments later, a metallic hum heralded the approach of the delegation. A sleek, manta-ray-shaped craft descended silently, settling on the platform with a whisper of displaced air. The craft's smooth sides opened to reveal a group of Talari figures, their elongated limbs and translucent skin gleaming under the twin suns. At their center stood High Matriarch Solon, her towering frame clad in shimmering black robes. "Human envoys," she said, her voice a harmonious blend of tones. "I am Solon. You may state your intentions." Ryan stepped forward, offering a respectful nod. "We come on behalf of Earth's United Nations, seeking to share knowledge, establish trade, and promote peace between our peoples." Solon's gaze swept over Ryan and Oliver, lingering on Ryan's steady, composed expression. "Peace? An interesting ambition. Tell me, human, what strength do you bring to our alliance?" Oliver bristled at her tone, but Ryan responded calmly. "Strength takes many forms. Humanity has faced challenges that have taught us to adapt, to work together. We believe cooperation can achieve more than conflict." Solon's lips curled slightly. "Adaptation, cooperation. Fine words, but words are easily spoken. What of actions? We can prove our intentions through shared efforts," Ryan said. "In time, we'll earn your trust." The High Matriarch tilted her head, her piercing eyes narrowing. "We shall see." The Talari delegation led Ryan and Oliver into a crystalline structure that seemed to shift and flow like liquid glass. Inside, rows of Talari officials watched silently, their gazes unreadable. Solon gestured toward a raised platform in the center of the chamber. "Present your terms," she said. Ryan began outlining humanity's proposed exchange of technology, cultural knowledge, and resources, his voice steady and clear. He spoke of Earth's struggles and triumphs, careful to emphasize the potential benefits of collaboration. Oliver stood nearby, silent but alert, ready to step in if needed. As the discussion continued, a flicker of movement caught Ryan's eye. At the edge of the chamber stood a younger Talari, Kaelra, her green-tinted skin glimmering faintly. She seemed different from the others, less rigid, more curious. When Ryan paused, she stepped forward. "Your words are unusual," she said, addressing Ryan directly. "You speak of working together, yet we have heard little of what you expect from us. Are you so willing to give without seeking equal return?" Ryan met her gaze. "We value mutual benefit. We're not here to impose demands, but to build something new together. If we only take, we risk destroying what we hope to create." Kaelra studied him for a moment, then nodded slightly. "Perhaps you are unlike others we have encountered, but we are not a people who trust easily." "High Matriarch, perhaps a demonstration is in order." Solon raised an eyebrow. "What do you propose?" Kaelra gestured toward a large, holographic display that appeared in the center of the room. "Let the humans work with us on stabilizing the planetary grid. If they can contribute meaningfully, then perhaps their words have substance." Ryan nodded. "We'd be glad to help. Just tell us what's needed." "Do you even know what you're agreeing to?" Oliver whispered under his breath. "No," Ryan replied quietly, "but we'll figure it out." The High Matriarch studied him for a long moment, then waved a hand. "Very well. If the humans succeed, we will continue this discussion. If not, we have no more time to waste. Ryan and Oliver were escorted out, flanked by a small group of Talari guards. As they moved through the corridors, Oliver muttered, "You sure about this, Ryan?" Ryan glanced at him with a faint smile. "No, but if we're going to earn their trust, we have to start somewhere. Let's see what we can do." Their path ended in a sprawling control room filled with alien machinery that hummed and thrummed with energy. Kaelra was waiting for them, her expression calm but watchful. She gestured toward a console. "This is the planetary grid control. We have been unable to fully stabilize it since a solar surge last cycle. If you truly wish to help, start here." Ryan stepped forward, scanning the readouts. He turned to Oliver. "We'll need to run a diagnostic first. I'll handle the interface, you check the power relays. Let's work together on this." Oliver gave a curt nod. "Understood." They set to work, the alien technology unfamiliar but gradually becoming clearer. Kaelra watched them closely, her curiosity growing as the two humans coordinated seamlessly. Ryan and Oliver's quiet, efficient teamwork seemed to surprise her. She had expected arguments or hesitation, but instead, they communicated with subtle gestures and brief words, their movements confident and purposeful. Hours passed as they made adjustments, tested systems, and rebooted sections of the grid. At one point, Kaelra stepped in to clarify a particularly complex Talari protocol. She and Ryan worked side by side, exchanging ideas and strategies. By the time the grid stabilized and the humming subsided, the room was bathed in a gentle, steady light. Kaelra looked at Ryan, her expression softening. "Perhaps you are not as we thought." Ryan met her gaze and smiled. "Perhaps we can surprise you." Chapter 2, The Challenge. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the crystalline chamber as Ryan and Oliver entered. The Talari delegation had convened here at the request of High Matriarch Solon, and the atmosphere was tense. Translucent figures lined the walls, their eyes gleaming with curiosity and skepticism. Ryan noticed how they whispered to one another in their alien tongue, casting brief glances his way. He exchanged a glance with Oliver, who gave a slight shrug. Whatever this was, they'd face it together. At the head of the chamber, Solon stood tall, her black robes shimmering in the multi-hued light. Beside her was Kaelra, her expression thoughtful as she watched the human pair approach. "Commander Wells," Solon said in her musical voice, "you have spoken much of collaboration, yet you have not proven your worth. Words alone do not secure trust." Ryan inclined his head. "What would you have us do, High Matriarch?" She gestured to the far side of the chamber, where a raised platform held a series of glowing objects. "A challenge, a task that will demonstrate your capability to adapt, to solve problems under pressure. It is a custom among my people. Kaelra will explain." Kaelra stepped forward, her green-hued skin catching the light. "The trial involves activating and aligning the keystones you see before you. Each stone represents a unique frequency that, when combined, stabilizes a simulated environmental system. It requires understanding our technology, deciphering patterns, and operating under a time constraint. We use this as a means to gauge resourcefulness and ingenuity." Oliver folded his arms, glancing at Ryan. "Sounds straightforward. We've worked through worse back on Earth." Ryan nodded. "We'll give it our best effort." "You will be timed," Kaelra said. "The current record among our initiates is 4 cycles. The chamber will monitor your progress and display your performance." Solon's sharp gaze fixed on Ryan. "Fail, and we will consider your promises as empty as the void." "Understood," Ryan said simply. He turned to Oliver. "Let's take a closer look." The two of them approached the platform, examining the glowing keystones. The devices pulsed faintly, each emitting a distinct hum. Ryan studied the console nearby, noting the symbols and readings that reminded him of both advanced Earth tech and something entirely new. He ran a hand over his chin, considering their approach. "Thoughts?" Oliver asked, leaning in close. "Let's start with the simpler frequencies and work our way up," Ryan said. "It's probably a sequence. Activate the bass tone, then tune the others until they harmonize. You handle the power modulation," I'll focus on deciphering the symbols. Oliver nodded. Got it. They got to work, their voices low as they exchanged observations. Ryan pointed to a pattern of glyphs on the console. This looks like a harmonic indicator. If we match the wavelength here, then the keystone should light up fully, Oliver finished. Right? Let's try it. The first keystone flared bright blue when they synced it. A ripple of approving murmurs spread through the watching Talari, but Solon remained impassive. Ryan quickly moved on to the next. As they progressed, Kaelra drifted closer, her curiosity piqued. You're not following any known protocol, she remarked. How are you determining the sequence? Ryan glanced at her. We're using logic and observation. These patterns remind me of certain algorithms we use in Earth-based engineering. The key is finding the common element and building from it. Fascinating, Kaelra murmured, watching as Oliver adjusted a power conduit and Ryan keyed in another sequence. The second keystone lit up, its glow pulsing steadily. The task became more complex with each step. The third keystone resisted alignment, its readings fluctuating wildly. Oliver muttered under his breath. This one's a pain. The output isn't matching the input. We're losing energy. Ryan frowned, studying the readout. What if we reroute the modulation through the auxiliary channel? It might stabilize the current. It's worth a shot, Oliver said. Hang on. Let me reconfigure this. Kaelra observed their interaction, noting how smoothly they worked together. They didn't argue or hesitate. They simply assessed the situation, shared ideas, and adjusted their approach. She couldn't help but admire their teamwork, though she kept her thoughts to herself. The third keystone finally stabilized, and the fourth followed soon after. By the time they reached the final keystone, both men were focused and efficient. The last stone glowed a vibrant white, and a melodic chime filled the chamber, signaling their success. Solon's expression remained unreadable, but the room was filled with hushed approval. Even the skeptical Talari observers seemed impressed. Kaelra stepped forward. For cycles, an admirable performance. Few of our own have achieved such a time. Good teamwork, Ryan said, looking to Oliver. Not bad at all, Oliver agreed, offering a faint smile. Solon approached them slowly, her robes swaying. She regarded Ryan and Oliver for a long moment before speaking. You have passed the challenge. It seems humans have more to offer than mere words. Perhaps we can consider further discussions. Ryan inclined his head. Thank you, High Matriarch. Kaelra met Ryan's gaze as Solon turned away. There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Approval, perhaps, or curiosity. She lingered a moment before following Solon, leaving Ryan and Oliver to share a quiet exchange. Well, we're not out of the woods yet, Oliver said. But at least they're starting to take us seriously. Ryan nodded. One step at a time. Chapter 3, Unlikely Allies. Inside the Talari's vast research facility, the air shimmered with holographic displays and a faint hum of advanced machinery. Ryan Wells stood at one of the central consoles, studying a planetary grid schematic that looked like a pulsating web of light. Beside him, Oliver Hayes squinted at the same display, his expression set in a familiar mixture of determination and skepticism. So we're supposed to help stabilize this thing before it collapses entirely, Oliver said, folding his arms. And we're doing it with tech we barely understand. Ryan glanced at his friend. We've dealt with complex systems before. This isn't that different. Oliver raised an eyebrow. Not that different? This isn't patching up a busted reactor on a space station. It's alien infrastructure, and if we mess it up, we're the ones who look incompetent. Before Ryan could respond, Kaelra entered the room, her movements smooth and deliberate. She carried a small device that pulsed with green light. You will not be working alone, she said, her voice calm but firm. I will guide you through our systems. Together, we may prevent further disruption. Oliver smirked. Great, a helping hand. Just what we needed. Kaelra's large, luminous eyes shifted to him. I trust you are capable of more than sarcasm, Lieutenant Hayes. Ryan stepped between them. All right, let's focus on the task. Kaelra, What's the first step? Kael'ra placed the device on the console. We must reinitialize the main conduits here, here, and here. She indicated 3 points on the grid. Each conduit must be synchronized to the others, or the entire system will destabilize. Sounds like fun, Oliver muttered, earning a sharp look from Ryan. Kael'ra ignored the comment and tapped a few commands into the console. I will handle the primary inputs. You two will monitor the feedback and ensure the auxiliary lines remain balanced. Lieutenant Hayes, you seem adept at handling hardware adjustments. Oliver straightened slightly. That I can do. And you, Commander Wells, Kael'ra continued, will analyze the incoming data to confirm our settings. Understood, Ryan said, nodding. They spread out across the console, each taking their assigned position. As they worked, the faint hum of the machinery grew louder, pulsing in a rhythmic pattern that was both soothing and ominous. Ryan focused on the data streaming across his screen, quickly identifying a frequency shift in one of the conduits. Kael'ra, the eastern conduit's output is fluctuating, Ryan said. It's off by 0.3%. Kael'ra's hands moved deftly over her console. Adjusting. Keep monitoring. On the far side of the room, Oliver crouched by a panel, his tools clinking as he made careful adjustments. Power's holding steady, but I'm seeing a small spike on the third line. I'll bring it down. Do it, Ryan said without looking up. The room fell into a steady rhythm. Ryan reading the data, Kael'ra fine-tuning the controls, and Oliver making physical adjustments. They didn't speak much, but when they did, it was quick, efficient, and to the point. The once cold atmosphere began to warm, not from the rising temperature of the machinery, but from the unspoken trust forming between them. After several intense minutes, Kael'ra paused and looked up. The conduits are stabilizing. Commander Wells, verify the alignment. Ryan double-checked the readings. It's holding. All frequencies are synchronized. Oliver straightened and wiped his hands on his uniform. Glad that's over. So, did we just save the day? Kael'ra's gaze lingered on the screen, her expression thoughtful. You have done well. The system is stable, at least for now. But this was only the first stage. Further challenges remain. Ryan exchanged a glance with Oliver, who let out a low whistle. Never a dull moment. Kael'ra turned to face them, her tone more measured. I underestimated your abilities. Most outsiders would have failed to adapt so quickly. You two seem different. Oliver grinned. What can I say? Humans have a knack for improvising. Ryan stepped closer to Kael'ra, his voice calm but curious. Why did you volunteer to work with us? It doesn't seem like the Talari way. Kael'ra hesitated, then replied, because I believe understanding each other is the only path forward. This is not a common view among my people, but it is mine. I see value in cooperation, even if it challenges tradition. Well, Oliver said, clapping a hand on Ryan's shoulder. Looks like we've got at least one ally here. Kael'ra inclined her head slightly. Ally is a strong word, but I will admit I find your approach intriguing. Ryan smiled. Then let's keep moving forward. Together. Chapter 4, Bridging the Divide. The alien sky above the Talari outpost rippled with colors as the three of them, Ryan, Oliver, and Kael'ra, sat near the edge of a crystalline plateau. The day's work on stabilizing the grid had left them drained, but the systems were now running smoothly. The faint hum of the restored infrastructure echoed in the distance, a soothing reminder of their hard-earned progress. Ryan leaned back, propping himself up on his hands. I'll admit, he said, glancing at Kael'ra. I wasn't sure we'd pull it off, but we're making a good team. Kael'ra tilted her head, her gaze steady. You humans do have a surprising ability to adapt. Perhaps I underestimated you. Hey, Oliver said with a grin. We're not just a bunch of mindless fighters. We've got brains, too. Ryan shot him a look. Thanks for that stellar first impression, Oliver. Oliver shrugged, unfazed. What? It's true. Kael'ra's mouth curved slightly, what might have been a smile. It is rare for outsiders to approach us as equals, let alone succeed in such a task. You've proven capable. I think that's a compliment, Oliver said, nudging Ryan with his elbow. What do you think? Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. I'll take it. For a moment, the three of them sat in companionable silence, the light shifting in the sky above. Kaelra's gaze lingered on Ryan, her green-tinted skin catching the faint glow of the horizon. There's something different about the way you work, she said softly. You don't rely solely on power or rank. You consider all angles before acting. It's how I was trained, Ryan replied. Back on Earth, we learned that strength isn't just about force. It's about finding solutions that benefit everyone. The best outcomes come from cooperation, not domination. Kaelra's expression grew thoughtful. Your people's history is quite different from ours. We have always valued strength above all else. It shapes our culture, our decisions. Yet, watching you and Lieutenant Hayes, I wonder if we've overlooked another way. Oliver leaned back, folding his arms behind his head. Sometimes it's the small things that make the biggest difference. Like, not punching every problem in the face. Kaelra raised a brow. An interesting metaphor. Ryan laughed. It's just Oliver's way of saying that sometimes a careful approach works better than brute force. Kaelra studied them both for a moment. I will admit I find your methods intriguing. Unusual but intriguing. The conversation shifted to lighter topics as the night deepened. Ryan told Kaelra about Earth's diverse landscapes, the countless languages and cultures that had emerged over centuries. Oliver chimed in with stories about his time in the service, from engineering mishaps to unusual alien encounters. Kaelra listened intently, occasionally asking questions. Her curiosity seemed boundless, and her sharp intellect quickly. Oliver said. Kaelra inclined her head. Perhaps, but such stories are rarely celebrated. Strength remains our defining value. Maybe it doesn't have to, Ryan said. Change is possible. Sometimes it just takes the right starting point. Kaelra's gaze met his, her luminous eyes reflecting the shifting sky. And do you think we are that starting point, Commander? Ryan hesitated, then nodded. I think we could be. Oliver rolled his eyes, though his tone was good-natured. You two are getting a little too philosophical for me. How about we focus on what's next? Like, how do we keep this grid stable in the long run? Kaelra turned to him, her usual calm tone returning. There are additional safeguards we must install. I will guide you both through the procedures tomorrow. See, Oliver said, smirking. That's something I can work with. Ryan grinned. Then let's get some rest. We'll need it. Kaelra stood, her movements fluid, and nodded toward the outpost. Come, I will show you to your quarters. They followed her back toward the crystalline structures, their footsteps silent against the alien terrain. Ryan glanced at Oliver, who seemed content to let the night's conversation fade into a comfortable silence. Kaelra paused before a sleek, shimmering doorway. You'll find these rooms adequate. Rest well, Commander, Lieutenant. Thanks, Oliver said, giving her a casual salute before disappearing into his quarters. Ryan lingered a moment longer. Kaelra, thanks for today. I know working with us isn't what you're used to, but I think we're making progress. Her gaze softened. It is an enlightening experience. Good night, Commander Wells. Ryan nodded and stepped inside. As the door closed, he leaned back against the wall, thinking about Kaelra's curiosity, her willingness to listen, and the way she seemed to question her people's rigid traditions. He smiled to himself. Maybe Oliver was right. Sometimes the smallest moments could make the biggest difference. Chapter 5, A Test of Trust. Ryan and Oliver sat across from Kaelra in a dimly lit conference room within the Talari outpost. The atmosphere was heavy, filled with unspoken tension. Ryan leaned forward, resting his forearms on the sleek metal table. The Talari had invited them here, but the details were vague. Kaelra's usual calm expression was now guarded, her gaze flicking between them as if gauging their reactions. You're not telling us everything? Oliver said bluntly, his arms crossed. What's really going on? Kaelra's luminous eyes met his, I have been accused of betrayal by certain factions within our leadership. They believe my collaboration with you undermines our traditions. Ryan frowned. Why would they think that? Because, Kaelra said, her voice steady but tinged with tension. Working closely with outsiders is seen as a sign of weakness. Some among my people do not view cooperation as strength. They believe that by aligning with humans, I am compromising our values. Oliver leaned back, letting out a low whistle. Sounds like they don't know you very well. It is not about knowing me, Kaelra said sharply. It is about the perception of strength. They see you, humans, as a threat to our identity. Ryan's brow furrowed. And what do you think, Kaelra? Do you think we're a threat? Kaelra hesitated, then shook her head. I do not, but convincing others is a far greater challenge. Well, Oliver said, his tone light but firm. What do they want? An apology? A demonstration of how wrong they are? They want proof, Kaelra replied. Something undeniable. Ryan nodded slowly. So we give it to them. We show them what cooperation can achieve. That may not be enough, Kaelra said. They question my motives. They suspect I have shared sensitive information with you. You haven't, Ryan said quickly. We've followed every protocol. You've been transparent from the start. Kaelra's expression softened slightly. I know, but they do not trust you or me. Oliver leaned forward, his voice quiet. Then what do we do? Stand trial? Fight it out in some arena? What's the play? There will be a formal inquiry, Kaelra said. I will need you both to speak on my behalf. Ryan's jaw tightened. We'll stand with you. Oliver gave a curt nod. Count us in. Kaelra studied their faces, her own expression unreadable. Your willingness is noted. But this will not be easy. Ryan's voice was firm. We'll do whatever it takes. The following day, the three of them walked into the Talari tribunal chamber. It was a grand, circular room with rows of seats filled with Talari elders and officials. At the center, a raised platform held a single, glowing console. Kaelra stood there, flanked by Ryan and Oliver. The murmurs of the audience quieted as the High Matriarch entered, her imposing presence commanding immediate silence. Kaelra, you stand accused of betraying our traditions. The High Matriarch began, her voice resonating through the chamber. What do you say in your defense? Kaelra lifted her chin. I say that I have acted in the best interests of our people. The humans are not our enemies. They have demonstrated ingenuity, resourcefulness, and a willingness to cooperate. By working together, we strengthen both of our civilizations. The High Matriarch's gaze shifted to Ryan and Oliver. And you, humans, what say you? What proof do you have that this cooperation benefits us? Ryan stepped forward, his voice steady. We've worked alongside Kaelra to stabilize your planetary grid, an issue that was endangering your infrastructure. We succeeded because we combined our strengths, Talari technology, and human problem-solving. Kaelra's guidance and expertise were invaluable. Oliver added, she's no traitor. If anything, she's one of the smartest, most dedicated people here. Accusing her of betrayal is a mistake. A murmur swept through the crowd, but the High Matriarch raised a hand, silencing them. She turned back to Kaelra. You have spoken well, but words are not always enough. Kaelra stepped forward. Then let my actions speak for themselves. The success of the grid stabilization proves that collaboration is not a weakness. If you doubt me, examine the results. The grid functions because of what we achieved together. There was a long silence. Ryan glanced at Oliver, who gave him a small nod. They had done all they could. Now it was up to the Talari. Finally, the High Matriarch spoke. Kaelra, you have made a compelling case. We will review the evidence. Until then, you are cleared to continue your duties. Kaelra inclined her head. Thank you, High Matriarch. As they exited the tribunal chamber, Oliver let out a breath. Well, that was something. You handled it well, Ryan said to Kaelra. She glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Your support was unexpected, but appreciated. Ryan smiled slightly. That's what allies do. Chapter 6. The Turning Point. Ryan adjusted the strap of his gear as he and Oliver stepped out onto the platform. Above them, the alien sky was swirling with ominous gray clouds, an unusual sight for the Talari's normally placid atmosphere. A storm of energy from a nearby pulsar had caused massive power fluctuations across the outpost systems. Several districts were dark, critical infrastructure threatened, and the Talari were looking to the humans and Kael'ra to prevent a cascading failure. "This is one hell of a storm," Oliver said, shielding his eyes as a gust of hot wind swept past. "Think we can pull this off?" Ryan gave him a sideways look. "We don't have much choice." Kael'ra approached, her long strides deliberate despite the strong winds. "The energy surge has destabilized the main conduit. If it collapses entirely, the entire network will fail." Oliver muttered, "No pressure." Ryan turned to Kael'ra. "What's the plan?" Kael'ra gestured toward a series of shimmering, crystalline spires in the distance. "We need to recalibrate the modulation array at each of those nodes. The challenge is that we can't stabilize one without the others remaining active. It will require synchronized adjustments at multiple points." Ryan frowned. "How many people do we have to coordinate?" Kael'ra hesitated, then glanced back at the facility. "Our technicians are occupied with stabilizing the other districts. We have, 3 people for all of that?" Oliver gestured at the array. "Great, just great." Ryan placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've done more with less before. We'll handle it." "Sure," Oliver said, shaking his head. "What's the worst that could happen?" Kael'ra led them to the nearest node, her voice calm despite the urgency. "You two will handle the alignment while I manage the central relay. I'll guide you through the adjustments." Ryan and Oliver followed her through a series of narrow walkways, their boots clanging against the metal. The wind howled around them, and the glow from the malfunctioning spires made the air hum with static. Kael'ra handed Ryan a data slate, its screen displaying shifting waveforms. "Commander, monitor this frequency. If it drops below the green threshold, alert me immediately. Lieutenant Hayes, keep the power channel steady. If you see any fluctuation above point 2, adjust it manually." "Got it," Ryan said, his voice steady. "On it," Oliver added, crouching beside a power console and opening a panel to expose the circuitry. They worked quickly. Ryan kept his eyes on the data slate, calling out changes as he saw them. "Kael'ra, we're holding steady at point 9. Adjusting the next frequency now." "Understood," Kael'ra replied, her hands moving swiftly over her own console. "Lieutenant, how are the channels?" Oliver grimaced as a spark jumped from the wiring. "Bit of a surge here. Hang on, adjusting now." The tension in the air was palpable. The storm's energy made everything feel heightened, each movement more critical. Kael'ra's voice came over the comms again, calm but firm. "Next node. Move now." Ryan and Oliver hurried to the next spire, repeating the process. The adjustments became more complex as the energy flow increased. Ryan called out readings, Oliver scrambled to keep the power stable, and Kael'ra guided them from the central relay. "Ryan, the frequency's dropping," Kael'ra called out. "I see it," he said, quickly recalculating. "Realigning now. Oliver, get ready to." Yeah, I'm on it," Oliver snapped, flipping a switch just as another spark flew. "Calm down," Ryan said. "We've got this." After what felt like hours but was only minutes, they reached the final node. By now, their movements were almost automatic, Ryan reading the data, Oliver making precise adjustments, and Kael'ra directing them. The storm raged around them, but they stayed focused. "Last alignment," Kael'ra said. "Lieutenant Hayes, increase the power to maximum. Commander Wells, hold the frequency at point 8. "On it," Oliver shouted, his hands moving over the controls. "Frequency steady," Ryan called out. "All systems stable." "Activating the final calibration," Kael'ra said. A series of lights pulsed through the spire, and the hum of the array began to smooth out. The air around them felt calmer, the energy storm subsiding as the array came back online. Oliver slumped back against the console, I can't believe that worked. Ryan gave him a tired smile. Good work, Oliver. You too, Kaelra. Kaelra approached, her gaze steady. You both exceeded expectations. Your quick thinking and coordination prevented a catastrophic failure. Don't mention it, Oliver said, wiping sweat from his brow. Just another day at the office. Ryan glanced at the glowing spires, their light steady now. We've proven we can handle this together. Let's head back. The three of them made their way back to the outpost, the tension giving way to a quiet sense of accomplishment. While the storm had tested their limits, it had also shown what they could achieve when they worked as one. Chapter 7. A New Understanding. The High Council chamber was silent as Ryan, Oliver, and Kaelra stood before the Talari elders. Their recent success with stabilizing the planetary grid had shifted the mood, but acceptance still seemed just out of reach. Ryan could feel the weight of dozens of translucent eyes on him, their expressions a mix of skepticism and curiosity. You've seen the results, Ryan said calmly, his voice steady. We worked together. We solved the problem without conflict. That should mean something. An elder, taller and more imposing than the others, leaned forward. Results are one thing. Intentions are another. What guarantee do we have that this cooperation will last? Before Ryan could respond, Kaelra stepped forward. Intentions can be proven through continued actions. This collaboration was not a one-time effort. We have demonstrated our willingness to work alongside the humans, and they have shown that their methods can align with our goals. Oliver glanced at Ryan, then back at the council. What she's saying is, we're not going anywhere. You've got a problem, we'll help fix it. That's not a promise. It's what we've been doing since we got here. The elder's gaze shifted to Oliver, his expression unchanging. And why would you do this? What do you seek to gain? Oliver shrugged. Not getting blown up along with your infrastructure was a pretty solid motivator. Ryan cleared his throat. What he means is that our survival is tied to yours. We're in this together now. A younger council member, one of the few who had shown any sign of warmth, spoke up. And Kaelra, why have you chosen to align yourself so closely with them? You have always been a scholar, but this seems personal. Kaelra hesitated, then said, It is not personal in the way you suggest. I have chosen to align myself with what I believe to be the best path forward. The humans offer a perspective that we lack. Their approach to problem-solving, their ability to adapt, these are qualities we can learn from. Ryan caught the brief glance she sent his way, but he kept his focus on the elders. Look, we're not asking for blind trust. We're asking for a chance. Give us one more opportunity to prove that this partnership can work. The room fell silent again as the council deliberated. Finally, the elder at the center spoke. You will have that opportunity. But understand this, failure will not be forgiven. Kaelra bowed her head slightly. Understood. Ryan and Oliver followed her lead, their relief tempered by the elder's stern tone. As they left the chamber, Oliver let out a long breath. Well, that was fun. At least they didn't throw us out. Kaelra's lips curved slightly. You underestimate how close they came to doing so. Ryan glanced at her. We'll just have to keep proving ourselves. They stepped out into the open plaza, the late afternoon light casting a soft glow over the crystalline structures. Kaelra paused, looking toward the distant spires that they had helped stabilize. You realize that this is only the beginning. Convincing the council was the first step. There will be others who oppose this alliance. Then we'll deal with them, Ryan said simply. Oliver raised an eyebrow. That's your big plan? Deal with them? Ryan smirked. It's worked so far. Kaelra watched their exchange, her expression thoughtful. You both speak of challenges as if they are easily overcome. Is it always this way for humans? Not always, Ryan said. But we've learned that a challenge is just a problem waiting for a solution. We approach it step by step, piece by piece until it's done. Oliver nodded. That's how we keep moving forward. Kaelra looked at them both, her voice soft. Perhaps that is why you are different. You do not see obstacles as insurmountable. You simply see them as something to be dealt with. Ryan shrugged. It's not always easy, but it's the only way we know. They continued walking, the tension from the council meeting slowly fading. Kaelra remained quiet for a time, as if weighing their words. Finally, she said, I have always questioned the rigidity of our traditions. Working with you has shown me that there is value in looking beyond our established ways. Oliver grinned. So you're saying we're a good influence? Kaelra's lips curved again, just a fraction. You could say that. Ryan smiled, though his expression was more subdued. Then let's keep moving forward. Together. Chapter 8 United Paths. The central plaza was alive with activity. Talari citizens moved about the glowing pathways, their translucent forms reflecting the shimmering light of the spires above. It was the culmination of weeks of effort. The infrastructure was stable, and the collaboration between Talari and humans had started to show real, measurable results. Now, the two groups stood on the brink of a formal alliance, one that would shape their future together. Ryan Wells stood near one of the spires, watching the crowd gather. Oliver Hayes joined him, adjusting the sleeve of his uniform and glancing around. Quite the turnout, Oliver said. Feels like half the planet showed up. Ryan nodded. They've been watching us closely. This is a big moment for them, and for us. Kaelra approached, her robes flowing with her graceful stride. The council has agreed to the alliance terms, she said. All that remains is the formal declaration. Ryan's gaze met hers. That's good to hear. Kaelra nodded, then looked to Oliver. Your efforts played a significant role in this. I doubt the council would have considered this agreement without the results you achieved together. Oliver gave a wry smile. Glad we could help. I just hope this sticks. Kaelra's expression softened. It will. Your actions have shown that cooperation is not a weakness, but a strength we lacked. As the formal ceremony began, the High Matriarch stepped onto a raised platform at the center of the plaza. Her voice carried across the crowd, steady and deliberate. Today marks a new chapter for our people. The efforts of our own Kaelra, alongside Commander Wells and Lieutenant Hayes of Earth, have demonstrated that unity and mutual understanding can achieve what strength alone could not. Let this moment serve as the foundation of our shared future. The crowd responded with a soft, rippling sound, a sign of approval among the Talari. Ryan and Oliver exchanged a glance before stepping forward. Kaelra joined them, and together they stood before the council as the final agreement was presented. After the ceremony, the plaza became a scene of quiet celebration. Ryan found himself standing near one of the glowing pools, staring at his reflection. Oliver approached, a drink in hand. You good? Ryan nodded. Just thinking. This is a big shift for both our peoples. It's not going to be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is, Oliver said, clapping him on the shoulder. But we made it this far. We'll figure out the rest. Kaelra appeared beside them, her presence as calm and steady as always. Commander, Lieutenant, your efforts here will not be forgotten. Ryan turned to her, his expression serious. Neither will yours, Kaelra. You took a risk trusting us. I hope we've proven it was worth it. She looked at him for a long moment before speaking. You have, and I hope we will continue to build on what we've started here. Oliver grinned. Sounds like a plan. Here's to more of the same, just, maybe with fewer close calls. Ryan chuckled. I can agree to that. Kaelra's gaze lingered on Ryan for a moment longer before she looked out. ND perspectives. It was far from perfect, and challenges would continue to arise. But in that moment, the potential for a shared future seemed within reach.